Myles was average, typical little bouncy baby. Loved by everybody because he was always like such a personality, so bubbly, so giddy. At age 2, we noticed a massive change in Myles. It was like a curtain dropped. He went from this bubbly character that everyone loved to a little guy who just suddenly sat in the corner and played all by himself. We did take him immediately to the doctor and started doing follow-up. He did have a reaction to his 18-month shot, which had left him quite sick. We'd noticed that his hearing had changed. Just there was a number of things that just started to go downhill.
He was kind of non-responsive to sound. Originally my parents thought that he was maybe deaf. He'd be facing away from someone and they'd call his name or drop something and he wouldn't respond at all. So at one point Brad actually took a stack of books and dropped it behind him and he didn't pay any attention at all. So they knew something was up, but weren't sure what it was yet.
We did have someone finally say, in general, yes, he is autistic. They were able to nail it down. We had a psychologist who said he's got all the autistic traits. When we went into Sunny Hill, that was the diagnosis we ended up getting, was he had Asperger's syndrome, which meant very high functioning autism.
They sat me down. They made sure I was focused on them as best I could. And they said, Myles, you're autistic. It was really simple. Because now I finally knew what was, well, I considered what was wrong with me. I finally had an excuse to tell the people whenever I got frustrated or confused or I couldn't get something. It was just something that kind of cleared the air for me.
We then realized very quickly that the son we had was the son we lost. And we went through a deep grieving period, which a lot of parents do when they first get hit with the reality of a diagnosis. Because there was no funding way back then, Brad and I both took on extra jobs. So we then had to juggle between taking care of him, all of our work, and paying all the bills in order to pay for services that he needed. Life was just an instant struggle. Every step was difficult. Like, what can we do to help our child survive through life and get through on the other end positively? This is our autism treasure box. This is everything I've saved that I've done with Myles over the years. We knew through our research that most autistic kids are visual learners. So we had the house virtually wallpapered with the picture boards, the schedules, and it was like reteaching him absolutely everything.
Mainly anger stuff, like how to calm myself, keep myself in check, how to handle said things of things that could get me really upset or angry. And if I couldn't find words, we would bring out a piece of paper that had pictures of every kind of emotion they're all like really funny pictures. And I'd simply have to point at the picture that I'm feeling.
And he had his little cards that he'd actually clip to his belt and use as well. And they were a special character Dave the Barbarian, and it was regarding hygiene. It was one of the things we used when we were trying to pull out our hygiene tools.
We did a lot of learning on the job, and
Yeah, 24/7.
trial and error. Some things would work sometimes, and other times they were a total failure. Everything worked initially, and then there were days that it didn't work.
Well, yeah, but you could even have something work right now, right in the here and now, and 2 minutes later not work, and you couldn't figure out why. You don't know what you did wrong.
It's like, well, there isn't a manual that says,
Yeah, what to
step
do.
A, B, C, D, and you're going to be a success at raising an autistic child.
In my research, I found what was then called Delta Association for Child and Youth Development, which they are now called REACH. And through them, I found some fantastic services.
So REACH Child and Youth Development Society has a range of programs for children from wee babies right up to youth that are 18 years old. We support children that are in the autism spectrum, and also any child that has a developmental delay or a child that is at risk of having a delay. We have programs, generally we start with developmental assessments for children, and from those assessments develop a program, an individualized program.
When I first met Myles, Brad and Anita and Myles had identified that they wanted some help from REACH to address some social skills and some social development for Myles, and some self-help skills, in particular around hygiene.
We got to the point where we would post a picture board on how to shower.
In the
The
shower.
whole process from start to finish. We would go over this and over this and over this with him, and eventually it got easier, but he wouldn't go there voluntarily.
If it said I was supposed to shower today, I would just kind of delay and delay and delay until it was bedtime, and then I put up a fuss about, oh, I gotta go to bed because blah 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 in the morning, and they just like couldn't deal with it, so they just let me go.
It was a slow process, and I think what happened really was a combination of the strategies working and just natural maturation with Myles. He just began to naturally mature.
As I was going through high school, as the way I was noticing like people kind of moving away from me, or they just not having the best expression on their face whenever they were around me.
Just one day, Myles got up and he's like, I'm showering. And I'm like, hallelujah. What did it take? And he goes, I smell. And I'm like, you do. Go shower.
Where it's come to today is, like Myles is almost totally independent. He was 100% dependent on us for everything. He's an A+ student in a modified program at high school. He's got a part-time job now. He's going out into the community and talking to people about autism.
And thanks for not giving up. Please keep going. We all need you. Your hard work will pay off. You will see results, even if they're small ones.
I actually hadn't seen Myles for about a year, and we sort of sat down at the table and said, remember when, you wouldn't get in the shower, and remember we tried all those things, and, sort of reminiscing, and then I started to ask him, what's life like now? And he's like, it's so great. There was a time where I hated having autism, and now I like it. I use it because I've got a good memory. I'm finding all the good things about autism.
Myles has become really an ambassador for REACH Society's mission statement. We're all about helping children with special needs reach their potential. Miles is a perfect example of how a young man that has faced some very big obstacles has overcome those and is reaching ahead towards his potential. And now he's helping other people to do the same through his public awareness.
Future looks good for him.
Yeah, very, very promising future. And, you know, it wouldn't have been possible without the help of all the people that knew Miles through the years and helped him with a number of his issues.
Of course, nowadays I openly tell people I'm autistic and they just, huh? Every time. I love seeing that expression.